Welcome back to Finance Drift. Today I'm going to talk about something that is going to upset a lot of people. SIP will not make you rich, or at least not in the way it is shown to you in the calculators or in the ads. The purpose of this video is to show you two numbers that most of the people miss while they fall in love with SIP projections. So let us get straight into the video. You might have seen this thousands of times. Invest 10,000 rupees per month for 20 years and walk away with 1 crore rupees. Well, that looks great on paper. A crorepati at the cost of, let's say, 2 dinners per month. Well, the math isn't wrong. 10,000 rupees per month, growing at 12% per year, can grow to 1 crore in 20 years. But here is a question no one asks. What will this 1 crore will buy you 20 years later? That single question is what we are going to focus in this video. So why does most of us miss including inflation in this picture? I think it is the way number is presented to us. The calculator shows one big number that is 1 crore and it is satisfying to see. But adding inflation means you are doing extra math while you are already struggling to understand compounding. So no one wants to do this extra step, not even the person who is selling the SIP. Because when you do the math, right, numbers don't look as exciting as it was. But for a change, right, let's do the math. So we all know historically Indian markets are given around 12% returns over the long period of time, but retail inflation is at 6 to 7% over the last couple of decades. And if you subtract 6 to 7% from the 12%, you get 5 to 6% actual returns. And that 1 crore after 20 years will buy you what 30 to 35 lakhs will buy you today. It is still a good outcome, but not as wonderful as the ads will show you. And then there is the second version of the same mistake. Even if you consider inflation while calculating the SIP projections, right, most of the people will leave the SIP amount as fixed. But your rent goes up every year, your school fees goes up every year, and even your grocery bills won't stop going up. But your SIP that is supposed to secure your future, right, that stays at the same amount for 20 years. So the point is with your SIP contributions, right, you're not considering your lifestyle inflation. Now you might be thinking, come on, the solution is easy, just increase the SIP amount every year. This is commonly called as step-up SIP, and most common percentage they put out there is increase the SIP by 10% every year. It sounds perfect on paper, but do you really think it's practical to increase SIP amount by 10% every year for 20 years? The first problem with this is it assumes your salary grows by 10% every year for 2 decades. But real salary growth doesn't look like that at all. There are years like this where companies are not giving any hikes, and in the years they give hikes also, right? At best you might get 10 to 12%. Also, most of us take breaks from work, switch jobs, switch careers, and even get laid off. And none of this is accounted in the calculators we use. And in most of the professions, right, once you reach the age of 40 or you have around 15 years of experience, right, the salary growth actually stagnates. And on the years you get a raise also, right? Not that all the money goes into investing. Your rent doesn't pause, your EMIs don't shrink, even your family members know that you got a raise and they would be expecting something from you, right? No, I'm not telling family is not important. Yes, you have to invest in the family, but this assumption of increasing your SIPs by 10% every year is wrong. And the third problem is behavioral. Most people forget to set up this step-up SIP. And yes, most of the brokers today give that option to set up the step-up SIP when you're setting up the SIP itself. But the problem, right, with this unpredictable hike and everything, we don't set up this step-up SIP in the beginning or when you're setting up the SIP itself. We think that whenever the salary hike comes, I'll do that, then forget to increase the SIP. So when you skip this for 2-3 years, right, you mess up the math you've done in the beginning, that SIP projections and by what age you can retire, right? So all those gets messed up and you push your retirement by another 3 to 5 years. So what works for most of the people, right? Instead of setting up this fancy 10% step up every year, right, you can set up something which is practical. For a lot of people, right, 5 to 6% step up SIP makes sense. And do not set it up while setting up the SIP, and treat this step-up SIP as a manual review every year. In the same way you file your taxes. And I know 5 to 6% is not exciting, but rather than setting up 10% and abandoning it after 2-3 years, right, you can set the 5 to 6% and sustain it for 20 years. Inflation and step-up SIP is not the only problem. There are other things as well. First is putting all your money into equity from day one without considering the asset allocation. And the next is stopping your SIP whenever the market crashes. This is one of the biggest mistakes. This beats the purpose of SIP, which is to reduce your average buying cost. And also do not ignore this expense ratio, exit load, and the capital gains tax. All of these things will not be included in your calculators. And currently, the capital gains tax is at 12.5%, which was at 10% previous earlier. So you know where the trajectory is going. We don't know what will be the capital gains tax 20 years down the line. So you'll also have to be mentally prepared for that. So having SIP with step up option is not exactly the path to become rich. What exactly it is? I would say it comes to few points. Increasing your savings rate matters more than chasing that extra returns. Always consider inflation while you're calculating your actual returns. The third is stay invested during the market cycles rather than coming in while the market is high and getting out when the market bottoms out. And the last is start as early as possible because time is the biggest compounder. So to conclude, SIP is not a get rich tool. It is a way to preserve your wealth, and compounding has three variables: the money you put in, the returns you get, and the time you stay invested. You don't have control over the returns, that is decided by the market. And if you want to retire early or reach your financial goals sooner, then you'll have to focus on increasing the input. So my advice for you is to invest in yourself so that you can bring in more money and hopefully you can be wealthier sooner. I hope you found this useful. If you did, please consider subscribing, and I have other videos in this channel. I will see you in the next one.